All right, here we are. Bear with me, you guys who will be checking this on the replay. It's my first time trying to pair up the Twitter and the YouTube and just seeing if we are getting it going right. I don't see that link, Rob, so I guess I have to post it myself. I don't see it on the Twitter Spaces. So maybe this is not the correct way to do it. Oh boy. It says it's supposed to go to Twitter. Here, let me see if maybe I click here. It does. It says you're live. Let's push view on Twitter.
Oh, I see us on Twitter.
Okay, we're on there. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Yep.
Bear with me, you guys. It's my first time trying to set this up so we can have a replay on YouTube. People can watch on YouTube if that's what they have, and also so people on Twitter can do it. So now I just need to find. All right, we're there. All right, well, welcome in everybody. Another episode of Profit Picks. You guys can let me know in the comments how everything is going. If you prefer we do it this way or not, but we usually do it on Fridays. But we said we'll try it 2 days a week this time. And we got our guy, Mr. Rob Veno, here back with us to try and help break down the slate. How you doing, Rob?
I am good today, buddy. How are you?
Well, yesterday I bit off more than I could chew in the NBA, and I took a step backwards. So I'm not happy with that. But it's a new day. It's a lot of stuff I like, and I'm always happy to break down the games with you.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Ski. And we'll try and go twice a week. We'll give you some early, at least in my case, early NFL thoughts, and then we'll come back and revise those on Friday if they need to be updated or revised. But what we're looking at early in the week, I know you're a little bit ahead of me already here on a Tuesday morning out west, Tuesday afternoon here on the East Coast. So we'll talk a few things out. And then, like I said, we come back maybe Friday and go back over what we had. Last night was a good night for me with the college football. I have to say the last 11 weeks of the college football season were tremendous to me. About 60 units worth of profit over the last 12. So it was a good extended run to end the season. The bowl season was good. Had a couple of props thrown in there last night that worked out as well. So kind of a lousy game, right? 65-7. But if you're on the right side of it, point spread and whatnot, then it's a good game. So we'll take that one. But the NBA hates me still. I got to get right on the NBA.
Yeah, we'll have time now to solely focus on that. Football winding down as far as NFL, college football is over, and things of that nature. So let's get into it, Rob. We have about 6-7 games in the NBA. We can also start to talk about a little bit of NFL, maybe even some college basketball. So first game on the slate for today, I'm looking at Detroit and Philadelphia. This one opened Sixers minus 9.5. It's all the way up to 13.5 now. Total open 230. We're seeing it down 5 points. So some money coming in, or people liking this under quite a bit. It's down to 225. Injury report. I did see Embiid game time decision, Tucker game time decision. I know Embiid went through shoot around. For the Detroit side, looks like they'll still be without Durant, Bogdanovich, Bagley, and then we have Livers game time decision. So I'll start off with this one, Rob. And what I'll say is these teams just played the other day, and Sixers got the win by about 12 points. And in general, what I like to do, when these teams play in this close time frame, I like to take the other side. Just to give you guys some kind of numbers or the kind of system initially, home favorites that won the previous matchup as a road favorite, and this is within 2 days. So those quick turnaround, same matchups. They're 31, 45, and 1 against the spread. That's 40.8%. That says to fade the Sixers. Last 5 game stats, as far as offensive rating, defensive rating, do favor that Philadelphia side. But maybe, if the Pistons continue to do what they're doing on the rebounds, their top 10 rebounding team compared to bottom 10 for the Sixers, maybe that can help them stay in this game. Embiid's first game back in a while. Maybe he'll be a little bit rusty. I just think it's a little bit too many points here, all the way up to 13.5. So I like the Pistons side. How do you feel about that, Rob?
Yeah, they're shorthanded, obviously, right? And without Bogdanovich, you lose your leading scorer. Jalen Duren had actually had taken over as the starting center, really, and been doing a really good job rebounding the rookie from Memphis without him. So, maybe Philly's a little stronger personnel-wise here if Embiid, who did go through shoot-around, like you mentioned, if Embiid and Tucker come back, they're whole again, while the Pistons are struggling through some injuries. I like, because there's 3 different types of these 2-game pairings, right? And I like what you said about home favorites after being road favorites. There is a switch in venue here. It was in Detroit last time. It's in Philadelphia this time. Sometimes we see these same teams, 2 games, 3 nights, but same floor, same building. That's a little different situation. And then there's other times when we've seen this on back-to-back nights, not 2 and 3 on back-to-back. So the situation you described does kind of tilt towards a dog. And I like the feistiness of the Pistons. I just wonder if they have enough manpower here. However, could be a game that Philadelphia takes lightly. The game the other day was one where James Harden got off to a real fast start, right? He had that triple-double. Tobias didn't play very well. Maxey played okay. I kind of struggle with this one, Ski. I thought maybe Philadelphia's team total would be okay because Detroit just doesn't play a lot of defense. And without Duran in the middle here, if Embiid plays, I thought maybe they could get up and over their team total. But again, if it turns into a blowout, I don't think you want to be on that side of things in case they rest guys. So I'm kind of at a quandary here. I didn't play it either way. I think if I had to, I would have probably played Philadelphia team total over. And, even if it goes over, you could still cover 13 and a half. And who's to say this doesn't go to 14 because these injury chasers will continue to push the line up, I think.
Well, Sixers have been going over lately. Last 2 weeks, I have them going over 6 of the 7 games. But a few of those, were without Embiid. Do you think, him coming back is going to slow down the pace, or you think it's just going to make him better offensively? Like, how do you feel about him coming back?
Yeah, again, I think it probably does slow it down a little bit, right? Because then again, with Maxey back now for 2 games, it's picked up a little bit. And we know Doc continues to say he'd rather be quick than slow tempoed. But I'm going to say that, the matchup in the middle, if Embiid plays, certainly favors Philadelphia. Even if it's a slow pace, he should be so efficient. And maybe he gets 14, 15 trips to the free throw line because I don't know how Detroit guards him without Jalen Duran. I'm looking here. Isaiah Stewart would be your starting center. It's not necessarily a fair match against Embiid. So, again, if I was going to play, I think I would lean toward Philly over. They just put up 123 without Embiid. So, but I didn't play, so I'm not going to recommend it to any of your viewers here on this show.
All righty. Let's move on to the next game. We have Charlotte and Toronto. This one opened -7 for the Raptors, and we're looking at 7.5 for 8s right now. Total open 231, and it's down to 228.5. Injury report. I should update this here. Hit the refresh button. I did see pretty clean, nobody really on the injury report for the Raptor side. Only Otto Porter. For Charlotte, Hayward, game time decision. Unlikely to play, though. And Kelly Oubre is going to be out. This was one of the tougher games for me. I didn't have a strong opinion here, but Raptors, they were really strong to start the year at home, right? They were winning, they were covering. Not so much lately, but I do think a lot of that was because it had a lot of guys in and out of the lineup. So will they get back to that form that they had at the house? That's what I got to think of here. I just don't feel comfortable laying the points with the current form that the Raptors have been in. Only thing they've been able to do is, play a little bit of defense lately. They're the worst rebounding team the last 5 games. They're bottom 5 offensive rated team. And that doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence when expecting them to win by multiple possessions. So if I have to play it, maybe I look towards the total and go with an under here. I know the Raptors are going to play a little bit slower. Charlotte does like to play up tempo, but both bottom 10 offensive rated teams the last 5 games. I talked about the Raptors being top 5 on the defensive end in that same span, and just, worst and second worst team shooting the 3 so far this season. So if I have to play this game, I would expect less points. How do you feel, Mr. Veno?
Yeah, I mean, recent numbers would bear that out, Ski. The Raptors' last 6 games, 5 of those have gone well under 229, right? That's what they're asking for here, 229. So the highest the Raptors have gotten to in those 5 that have stayed under this number was 222. So that's pretty low. And then Charlotte has been under in 6 of their last 8 games. We know that Charlotte's a hit or miss shooting team. They're always going to play with pace, but maybe the Raptors' slower pace negates that. I always like to think that the home team can control the tempo a little more of the 48 minutes than the road team can. And you're right about the defense. Toronto's given up 105 or less in 3 of the last 5. The problem I have with Toronto, Ski, is right now they sit 11th in the Eastern Conference, a couple games out of even a play-in spot. And you wonder at what point in time Toronto just maybe bags the season and starts trading guys out of there. I don't know what their approach is to what's become a pretty bad season for them. They could, again, injury has a lot to do with where they are right now. So they could regroup and say, let's make a playoff push, or they could say, this season's finished. We're not going anywhere. Let's start trading pieces. I just don't know where they're at right now. I would think it's a veteran squad with Siakam, Anunoby, Van Vliet, all these guys that they would want to win games. But it's a tough call either way. It's tough to get inside the heads of these guys. So I would probably look at Toronto if I had to, but more than that, I think you're right with the under here, 229. That doesn't come out of my mouth very often, under, but I think under 229 from what we're seeing lately is probably right. Looks like Toronto's starting to get right on defense here.
Yeah, pay attention when you hear Veno like an under. Absolutely. If I have to mention a couple of player props that would be on my radar for this game, obviously got to look at LaMelo. He's been pretty consistent. And just thinking which way you would probably want to play him here. He's been making a lot of threes. I'm not a big three-point prop player, but I feel like he's been having success there. I'm looking at some numbers really quick. His assists, probably points and assists would be the way I would go with LaMelo. He's averaging 8.6 assists since he returned on December 14th. Toronto allows the 7th most assists per game. And last 10 versus guards, they're allowing 9.1 assists. So I might look towards LaMelo, either assists, points plus assists. I'm not a big 3-point prop player, but it does make sense. I mean, he's been hitting them, and Toronto's allowed a player to hit 4 or more threes 7 of their last 10 games. So LaMelo is one way to look at it. If I'm looking at the other side, probably Siakam. His last 10 games, he's averaging 28.5 points, 8.5 rebounds, and versus Charlotte, he's had a 24-point game. I would probably look towards one of those 2 players if I'm doing player props, but I need a little bit more time to confirm and actually put those bets in. Just trying to give you guys a little something early. We'll move on to the next game, Oklahoma City and Miami. This one opened Heat -4.5 and down to -2. Total open 224.5, now 222.5. Let me just glance at the injury report here because maybe I know Bam got ruled out, right? Oh boy, this Miami Heat laundry list of injuries. Yeah. Who's actually playing? Yeah, that's what I need to focus on here. We have Haslam game time, Vincent game time, Dedmon game time. Expected starting lineup is Oladipo, Strus, Jimmy Butler, Highsmith, and Robinson. And we have about, 8 other guys listed as out. Bam, Lowry, et cetera, Robinson. So that's probably why you're seeing the line open so short for OKC, and you're seeing it come down. I want to say this is – what up, if I see him in the comments. I want to say this is the first nationally televised game for OKC. So maybe that would be a reason for them to bring it tonight. With the laundry list of injuries and just that right there, I would only look OKC, but it's not a game I would play. You have anything on this one, Rob?
Yeah, I would say I would look at OKC, Ski. Probably forget the 2 points at this point. Just play money line. They've got one MO, and it's generally if they think they can outrun you, they're going to outrun you. And this is going to be one of those games where when we look on Twitter in about 3 hours from now, it's going to say Miami Heat players available tonight. And there's going to be 7 or 8 of them. And when there's only 8 players, OKC is going to run. And I don't, necessarily care how slow Miami wants to go. Mark Dagnall and the Thunder will push pace. So I think that, they're going to try and wear these 8 guys down. Jimmy Butler, Udonis Haslem. We're talking about older guys here that are going to be, forced into action. Take a look, Ski, at what Oklahoma City has done from the 3-point arc in their last 5 games, their last 4 games. 43%, 46%, 40.5%, and 50% from 3. And a lot of that's due. I was reading a little article on Josh Giddey, who has hit 50% of his threes over the course of his last half dozen games. And all of a sudden, if Oklahoma City can shoot straight, they're a dangerous team. And to just back up a hair bit to Miami's top weapon here, which will be offensively, it'll be Jimmy Butler because Bam and Tyler Hero are out of this game. He draws Lou Dort as a defensive assignment. And if there's one thing Lou Dort can do, it's be a defensive headache to guys. I don't know that, Jimmy, and not that Jimmy doesn't want it, but I'm just saying that he could probably slow Jimmy down a little bit. I like OKC. I actually looked at their team total. It was 110.5. For a team that wants to push and a team that's shooting pretty well in modern day NBA, 110.5 is a little low. However, we know Miami wants to crawl. I think that's where the battle lies, right? Oklahoma City's going to want to push. Miami's going to want to dribble. But eventually, if they're chasing, they'll have to pick up the pace, right? So maybe if OKC gets out quick, Miami's got to chase. I like it 2 ways. I like Oklahoma City as the dog here, and I think I like them to get to 111, so over their team total of 110.5.
And last 2 weeks, I have OKC averaging 121.6 points per game. So I guess I'm up and over that number that you're looking at today, and I cannot talk you off. What up, Justin? Appreciate you tuning in. Munaf says Jimmy Butler triple-double. If you guys, anybody watching, if you guys have questions, comments, I'm gonna do a little bit better or figure it out. This is my first time doing it like this, but I'm not sure if we see the questions and comments on Twitter, but I do see them on YouTube. So if you have them, bring them. We'll do our best to answer and help anybody out. Let's keep going here, Rob. We have another game, and it will be back to the odd screen. Cleveland and Utah. This game opened Cleveland -3.5, and it's going towards Utah. We see it now down to 2.5. Total open 226.5 and sitting right around there. Couple 227s are out there. Injury report here for Cleveland: Rubio out, Dean Wade out, Windler out. For Jazz, THT out, Kelly Olynyk out, Colin Sexton out. If I'm not mistaken here, Rob, this is, and I don't know where my actual sheet went for this Cavs game, but this is Donovan Mitchell's first game back in Utah, right? So I'm thinking, I get the Cavs haven't been that great of a road team, but I know they want to come and get a win for him in this one. And probably even more so than just playing on the Cavs. Why not just play Donovan Mitchell to have a game? His point prop was pretty high. I think it's 29.5, but I just think it's a game where he'll be gunning. Other than that, I didn't really look too much into it. I like the other games a little bit more, and especially the next game we're going to talk about. But other than Donovan Mitchell, or if you like Donovan Mitchell, anything else on this game, Rob?
Well, I would second that, Donovan Mitchell. I'm sure that, Garland is going to do all he can to put Mitchell in good situations here to score points. And let's remember that there's nobody on Utah that we can actually single out as a defensive stalwart in that backcourt. So Donovan Mitchell's going to have shots. He's going to have opportunity, and that's all you can ask for if you're playing over in a points prop, player prop. You want opportunity. I think you're going to get it here. Certainly he'll look to put on a show. They played once before, 122-99 Cleveland. So that game hit 221 points. The Jazz have been a great over team, right? 3 straight overs, 4 of the last 5 of the last 6. If you go back even further, I'm going back a little further here now, 9 of the last 11 over the total for the Utah Jazz. Cleveland doesn't like to play that way. But again, if Mitchell's shooting a lot tonight, the volume is going to be there. And Utah doesn't stop anybody, so maybe they score. In the game where Utah got 99 points, they only shot 39% from the field. And they're a way better shooting team than that. So if that bumps up to maybe 43, 44 tonight, They're going to be into the 110s, 111, 112 right in there, which kind of would put this game over. So I take a real slight lean there, but I think more than anything, you want to be on Donovan Mitchell tonight because he's going to be solely focused on putting on a show. So you got to play his points total over for sure.
All right, we're aligned on that one. And get that money on Donovan and just get out on that game. That's how we feel. This next game, Rob, I do like quite a bit here. And we're looking at Phoenix Suns, Golden State Warriors. This game opened Warriors minus 10.5. Now up to 11, a couple 11.5s out there. Total open 229 and sitting between 229.5 and 230. As far as the injury report for the Warriors, we have Steph Curry, game time decision. I feel like yesterday I saw it probable. Right now I just see game time. Klay Thompson is game time but likely to play. We have Green, not Draymond Green, Jermichael Green out. Kuminga out, Wiseman out. For the Phoenix side, looking very Miami-ish over here.
Yeah.
Cameron Payne out, Chris Paul out, Cam Johnson out, Crowder out, Devin Booker out. We have Landry Shamet, game time, but very likely to play. Torrey Craig, game time, very likely to play. And DeAndre Ayton, game time, very likely to play. So I feel a couple different ways about this game here, Rob. The Suns, they just been ass. I want no parts of anything they're offering until until Devin Booker comes back for one, and they start to show me some kind of consistency and some of that chemistry that we saw 2 years ago. Because this looks like a completely different team nowadays. Last 2 weeks, they're not even averaging 100 points. They're averaging 99.4 points per game. They're pathetic. The worst offensive rated team in the last 5. And they have been playing a little bit of defense, though. I'll give them that. But it's just not a whole lot to like. They're 2-9 against the spread so far this season without Devin Booker. And the Warriors, they will get, and appreciate that. Ty says, yes, Key, stay on YouTube and Twitter. They like it this way. Okay. I appreciate that input there. The Warriors, you know how we like them or where we like them, Rob. Number one, we absolutely like them when they're at home. Number two, we like them a hell of a lot more when they're off of a loss at home. They are, you can go back as far as you want since this group has kind of been together. If you go back to 2015, they're 24-9 against the spread off of a loss when they're a home favorite of 9 or more. And that's what we're looking at today. If you want to go like that, that's too long. That's when they're really dominant, blah, 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 blah. You look at the last few years, going back to 2019, they're 9-1 against the spread as a home favorite of 9 or more off of a loss. It's just their role. They dominate. They stink this year, at least on the road, but they're just dominant at the house. So I like that, especially with the addition of Stephen Curry coming back. And then there was something that is just a system based, and I'm gonna read it for you guys. The system is pretty much saying is like, my bad, you guys. It's basically saying like the line should be lower based on the average margins for each of these teams. And so it goes like this. And this is a system for after the first 5 games of the season. We're going to exclude just the early part. Home teams on a negative ATS streak, which means they haven't covered the past couple games. They are 119, 73-1 against the spread when the line is more than 10 points greater than the difference between each team's average margin. So pretty much it's saying like this line should not have been this high. It's high for a reason. And if it's a situation where they're seeking same season revenge, it's 58-19 against the spread. That's 75.3%. That says to play the Warriors tonight. So that's exactly what I'll do. Continue to put money in my pocket in this situation, off a loss at home, and I'll be on them tonight. But I also like the under. And reasons why I like the under. Let me start off with a little system-based thing here before I get carried away and forget. Rested home teams. And when I say rested, I just mean they have 2 or more days rest, and they have 2+ days rest after this game. So they can put all their energy and effort into defending this game because of how rested they are and how much rest they're going to get after. They don't got to worry about flying anywhere and playing tomorrow night. They can be focused solely on this game. So let me just repeat one more time. Rested home teams with 2+ days rest before their next game, they are 47-21 to the under since 2017. It's a little bit under 70%. That says to play this one under the total. We already talked about how much Suns have been struggling without Devin Booker. These teams are combined 9-4 to the under when or my bad, they're combined 9-4 to the under the last 2 weeks, with those games combining to average about 220.8 points per game. And the Warriors at home so far this season are 13-8 to the under. So I like the Golden State side, and I like the under in this game. Could you talk me off, Rob?
Probably not, Ski. I do not release a whole lot of 5% NBA plays, but I had my first of the year on Sunday night, took Cleveland against this Phoenix team. Just couldn't see any way, right, that Phoenix would score against that team. And it took a big fourth quarter for Cleveland to finally get there for me, but they got it done. As you mentioned, under 100 points, 4 straight games by the Phoenix Suns. And you just look at who they have out there, and you can understand why. I think, to your point about when you said Phoenix is playing a little better defense lately, they're disguising defense by going slow. It's the slowest tempo team over the last 5 games. So when you go slow, less possessions, you're going to look a little better defensively. I don't know that they're that good defensively. And against a team like Golden State, who's off of back-to-back losses against Detroit and Orlando, you can't be losing to Detroit and Orlando and Phoenix walk in here and expect with 6 guys to beat them. I don't think. This could be a situation where Golden State gets out early, often. Phoenix just doesn't have the capability to chase, in my estimation. First quarter number is -4. Halftime number is -6.5. Full game 11.5. I would recommend any of those, depending upon which way you like to play it. If you like to play all 3. And then the under, where the under is concerned, I don't know if you have this, Ski, but we were doing a Wager Talk NBA show, and Andy Lang pointed out that at home, Golden State had held an outrageous percentage of opponents under their team total. It was something crazy. Like over the last 20 games, 18 teams hadn't hit their team total against Golden State. And
I didn't hear that one, but I heard the one he mentioned where it was when the team total was 118.5. They hold them under. I did hear that one.
Under the 118.5. Okay. This one's only 109. You wonder how Phoenix is even going to get to 109 if Golden State doesn't want them to. I would say if you're going to play Golden State, don't wait till they say Steph is in. I mean, because then, you're paying a huger price here. Might push the total up a little bit if you like under. Maybe you wait on that total side. But I like Golden State here. I can't see any reason to play on Phoenix. I'm kind of in the same boat with you. Took a really big shot the other night at fading Phoenix. I would take that shot again here. I actually think that first quarter might be the best way to look, just because Golden State should be, as you mentioned, off of rest and off of back-to-back losses to lottery teams. They should be ready to go here. So I think I would lay 4 on the top of the card and then just fill in underneath from there.
Yeah, I can't talk you off that first quarter. I don't have the stats, but I feel like Suns' first quarter, they've been pretty bad as well. And I do expect the Warriors to come out firing tonight. So we pretty much lining up here. You don't feel as confident as I feel on the game, but you're feeling pretty much the same way. And I like that. So let's keep it going here. We have 2 more games in the NBA. I do want to talk some NFL with you too, Rob. I have a lot of games that I like this weekend. We get an early jump start because these numbers are going to move.
Right.
Orlando and Portland, I have as the next game here. Open -7 for Portland, up to -8 now. Total open 230 down to 228. I would actually, before I start, let's just see who's actually available tonight. So for the Magic side, They'll be without Isaac. I don't remember when he played. Kiki out. Nurkic, game time decision for the Blazers, but very likely. Gary Payton II is game time. Nasir Little out. And Winslow out. This game, Rob, neither team has been playing good basketball lately. It's very tough to want to look either one of these teams away. In Orlando, they've been pretty poor on the road. They've only won 5 games, but you're getting a good amount of points here. Portland at home, they've been pretty good. I have them as 9-6 straight up, 10-5 against the spread. But this is not a situation where they're an underdog or you're just asking them to win. You're asking them to win by margin here. And they're just not. I mean, when I look at the last 5 games, they're number 5 defensive rated team, which is, a lot better in their bottom 5 offensive rated team. But in general about this Portland team, I just don't trust them to play defense consistently. And if I can't trust you to play defense, I can't trust you to win by multiple possessions. So if I had to play this one, I'd probably look towards grabbing the points with Orlando, but I'm pretty sure I won't be involved here. How about you, Rob?
Yeah, Portland's on a 3-game ATS losing streak. I know I've read a couple of things where Chauncey Billups was upset with the way the team was playing defense, and he kind of almost, I'm not going to say that, he took a practice and tried to change systems and whatnot, but boy, he really wants to ingrain defense into this team. And I just don't know that, he's got the guys to play the type of defense that Chauncey Billups' 2006 Detroit Pistons played. It's just not going to work, right? They're a different style team, but it has led to them not scoring, Ski. I took a shot with them the other night. Team total against Toronto for Portland, I think, was 111. And I was looking at their last 2 games prior to that, 106 and 99. Didn't shoot the ball well. Lillard didn't shoot the ball well. Neither did Simons. I thought, you know what, these guys are overdue. You know me, I like these bounce back things. And it didn't work again. They scored 105. And maybe it was the Toronto defense. Maybe it was just that Portland's slowing up a little bit here as far as tempo is concerned, because they're not a high tempo team anymore. Orlando, where they're concerned, last night against Sacramento, they were a defensive sieve. Sacramento scored early and often in that game. I like the fact that Bol is back for this one, Ski. He cleared health and safety protocols yesterday, but didn't play. But he's going to play tonight. All indications are he's going to play tonight. And the Orlando Magic have a lot of size, front court and interior in the paint size when he plays. You can back Wendell Carter up with Bol. Something that, outside of Nurkic, really Portland doesn't have. So, I kind of like the depth of this Portland team. I don't like the way they played last night. I thought that because they started the road trip with a 115-101 win over Golden State. In fact, I was on with Jay Money yesterday. I said to Jay, it shows me that maybe they're ready to do something on this West Coast road trip. It's a young team. It's a talented team. But then they get blown out by Sacramento. Back-to-backs here tonight. I think their scheduling is, let me just look here. They are, today's the 10th, so it's 3 and 4 nights for them. Maybe they're young enough and deep enough to overcome it. I'm kind of with you, though, that I don't want to lay this type of number with the Blazers just because, A, they could lose the game straight up. They're not playing real well as is. They've lost 3 straight. And B, you can't trust them to win by 10 points. Now, could they come out of the shooting slump here? I'm always afraid of that. Becomes a difficult game. Maybe you want to look over here, but I'm just worried because Chauncey Billups is tinkering with this team. And I don't think it's in a good way. I have to tell you, I don't think slowing the Blazers down with their personnel makes them a better team. I understand he wants them to play better defensively, but I don't know. I'm kind of in a quandary here, Ski. I would like to play over, but I don't think I can.
All right, fair enough. I definitely would not be playing that game. I'm going to stay far, far away. We have one more game on the slate in the NBA, at least, where we will talk a little bit of NFL. And if you have questions, like I said, shoot them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer. If you have plays you like, we'd like to see them. And Otto says, Warriors Ski is a problem, true force to reckon with. Appreciate you for tuning in, Otto, and I agree. Last game on the slate for NBA, Rob, we have Dallas Mavericks facing the LA Clippers. Oh, how do I even let that come out of my mouth? Dallas Mavericks facing the Clippers. Should be St. Louis or somewhere else Clippers. Total open 220. It's up to 222.5. Spread open Clippers minus 3.5, and it's down to a pick 'em. So first thing we do, we check the injury report because very likely while we're seeing the movement here, Paul George out, Luke Kennard out for his Clipper side. Doncic, he's game time decision. I did just see a pop up saying he went through shoot around or is going through shoot around, something like that. Finney Smith remains out. Green out. Maxi Kleber out. My initial thought for this game, this is tough. I mean, if we got Luka, I mean, Luka kills these Clippers and he hates them. I know you don't have, Paul George and Kawhi over there to keep them interested, but he brings it to these guys. He's a bully every time he faces them. You'll see him out there cooking Kawhi and PG with 20 points in the first quarter like clockwork. So as long as he's interested and available and healthy, Marcelo says Luka's going to play. I mean, if he's available and healthy, if I'm expecting points in this game, I would bet Luka over his points or PRA, however you got to play it. I would like that better than back in the Dallas side, or I would pick that over betting it over. And if I have to play the total in general, I think it's more of a lower scoring game just because of the pace that Dallas plays at. Bottom five, the last 5 games, Clippers not really playing with pace either. One thing that scares me, last 5 game stats. I mean, we think of Clippers as a better defensive team than this, but they're the worst defensive rated team in that span. And Mavericks are right behind them. They're second worst. So that makes me nervous. Mavericks have went over 5 of their last 7 games. Clippers, though, 17-3 to the under at home. It's hard for me to play it. So like I said, if I want to expect points, Luka PRA. Otherwise, I probably want to bet the under here. How do you feel, Rob?
Yeah, well, I would have said it if you didn't, Ski. Luka Doncic is going to suit up no matter what against this team. And Montrezl Harrell and Pat Beverly don't even play there anymore, and he still hates them. Because, it goes back to a couple of playoff series ago where, Harrell was just miserable. I'll use a kind word, miserable to Doncic, but there were a lot of technicals in that. There was a lot of pushing, a lot of cheap shots, and Beverly got cooked in that series. They couldn't play him the rest of the series. They had to put him on the bench in that one. So he always wants to play against this team. And like you say, I don't see, if Paul George isn't on the floor, there's nobody that can really even stand in front of Luka Doncic on the other side. So I would agree. You want to play his props. He sat out the Oklahoma City game, the most recent game that they played. They've had some rest. I can't see why he wouldn't play here. I kind of like the Dallas side just because LA is on such a miserable run right now. 0-5 against the spread, 0-6 straight up. This team's lost 6 straight games. And I'll point out the numbers that you just went through, Ski, because you said they're the worst defensive team last 5. How about this? The Clippers allowed 49.4% from the field, 56.8 from the field, 50.6 from the field, 45.9, which is their best effort. That was against Miami, 52-3, 48-4, 51-2. That's 4 games in 7 where this great defense supposedly has allowed 50% or better from the field. I don't want to have that. I don't think they're in good form. We are talking here on this show, but we were texting last week where some things, the night they played Minnesota, oh my God, some things hit the text message between us that we won't say on the air. But, you never know what's going on with these guys. As soon as it looked like they were starting to come together, Ski, they throw this 6-game losing streak in there. I don't want them. I think if I was going to play, I would play Dallas. But more than anything, again, like we talked about Donovan Mitchell, I'm totally with you that you have to look at Luka's PRA here because he's probably going to put on a little bit of a show against this team.
Absolutely. And that's who the Clippers are. We're not surprised, or at least I'm not. I mean, expect inconsistency when you're looking at the Clippers in general. Saturated says Dallas first quarter. I mean, I can't talk you off. Luka usually plays the entire first quarter. That's when I would want to be on Dallas. Marcelo says, exactly, Ski, the only capper I've seen mention Luka hitting Clippers. I mean, we've seen it for a couple of years now. That's Luka Debo, especially when he sees the Clippers. Dan Kelly, what's up? Appreciate you tuning in. It's my guy, Dan. He says, what's this, a new show? Ski still running up the electric bill. And he says, how about marketing? Says Cleveland gave up on him. I'll be on his props. good call out on the other side. I mean, we're talking a whole lot about Donovan Mitchell, right? In that last game that they played, Markkinen was going off, if I'm not mistaken, too. So that's a good call out by you, Dan Kelly. I will definitely look at Markkinen a little closer today. And last thing I'll say about this, and I just want to ask you, Rob, as poor as the Clippers have been, right? They've won one game the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Why is this line going against the Mavericks? Mavericks have won 5 of their last 7. Why is it all the way down to a pick 'em?
No, it's in favor of the Mavericks, right? Because the Clippers opened 3.
Oh, okay, that's my mistake.
Yeah, and I think that the anticipation of Luka playing pushed it all the way down to pick.
Okay, yeah, that's my mistake there.
And then, we go from there. And up to your point, or to whoever in watching that made the point about Lauri Markkinen, he has been going crazy for about 3 weeks now. Not just the Cleveland game. I mean, he's putting up numbers that are all-star type numbers across the board, points, rebounds, assists. He's been their best player, no doubt about it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, although I don't think Markkinen has the history with the Cavs that Donovan Mitchell has with Utah. I think there's a little more bitterness with Mitchell and the Jazz than there would be Markkinen to the Cavs. But still, just on principle and on the way he's been playing recently, you can't go wrong playing Lauri Markkinen props. He looks like the guy when he came out of Arizona that everybody thought he was going to be this year for the Utah. He's found himself a good home.
I loved him in Arizona, and he let me down into the league the first couple of years. But looking more like Larry Bird nowadays.
There you go.
All right, good stuff on the NBA slate, Rob. Let's touch a little bit of NFL. Oh, Beltway with the good comment says the most improved player race is good. Halliburton, SGA, Lauri Markkinen, all good candidates. I can't say I pick one over the other right now. All doing really well. NFL is wild card weekend, Rob. This is the time when I usually like to start betting NFL, and it seems a hell of a lot easier. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games here. I have opinions, or at least some sort of opinion, on all of them, really, Rob. Is there any game here you didn't want to talk about?
No, we can go through them, Ski, because like I say, you're a little further along in these handicaps than I am. I touched on them last night for the first time, really, after I made the power rating point spreads. So, let's work a couple things out here.
All right. First game that will be played is Seattle and San Fran. Now, this was not my most favorite game, but what I will say about this one is, first it opened -10. We're still seeing 10s, seeing a couple 9.5s. The total opened 43.5. Not too much movement. Still seeing 43s out there. There's 142.5 at Bet Online. Now I looked up wild card weekend, and they generally trend towards the under. And you know how good division unders have been so far this year, but in wild card weekend, not so much. It was like a little bit over. It was maybe like 51, 52% towards the over, whereas the unders were more in like the 60% range. So I just think like these two teams know each other. They're going to know how to score on each other. And with the, kind of a lowest total of 43, I would only look to bet it over. And the San Fran side, I want to look towards them. And really it's just, do I really have to explain how much of the better team that they are than this Seattle Seahawks team? I know that they always play them tough because they're in the division, but just looking at, playoff time, that's when you flex your muscles. That's when the good teams show up. That's when, you can get square, if that's what you call it. You can get chalky. So these playoff double-digit home favorites, I have them as 14-3 against the spread, Rob, and they've covered 11 straight going back to 2011. Like, you should not be scared of taking their favorites like this for a reason. This is what they've been playing all year for. They're going to bring it tonight. So, or not tonight, but they're going to bring it in that game. So I like the Niners. I think their defense will hold Seahawks down. And I want to say, I should have these numbers in front of me. Majority of their wins have been like blowout type wins. It's not like they're just winning by a couple points here and there. There were a couple tickets, or if not a couple, at least, 1 or 2 that I cashed with San Fran as like a -9 or or something like that. I know it was a little bit earlier in the season, but that's how I view this San Fran team, and that's the way I look to play this game. So San Fran minus the 10 is my look here, and I would only look towards the over as well. How you feel, Rob?
Well, I'll say this: 6 of the last 8 games they played down the stretch, the 49ers, they won by 13 or more points in their wins. So here you're 10.5, 11. So you're above that. You're in good shape there. They played twice, like you mentioned. Both games ended up totaling 34. There was a 21-13 game. There's a 27-7 game. Seattle doesn't gain 300 yards in either of those 2 games. San Fran outgains them by 157 and 104. So, like you said, I mean, they're an 11-point favorite for a reason. They're clearly the better team at this point in time. They clearly have the better defense. Seattle, I don't want to say they backed into the playoffs because they did have to win their game against the Rams in order to get there. But then Detroit, finished the job for them by beating Green Bay and getting Seattle here. Just don't know, Ski, that, that they'll be able to run the football against the 49ers. Kenneth Walker's been great, but if you can't run it, then Geno's under pressure all the time. San Fran had that lousy defensive game. Surprisingly, it was like a mirage a couple of weeks ago against the Raiders, where the Raiders, gained 500 yards and Jarrett Stidham comes in for Derek Carr and goes nuts. But they straightened that out last week against Arizona. So I don't know. Generally speaking, in the playoffs, and there's certain rounds to it, and we're sitting in this new age where we have a super wild card round, right? So I don't know that there's enough statistical data that you could throw in a database to say, well, you just pick the winner. But certain rounds in these playoffs, all you do is pick the winner, and the point spread doesn't come into play. Just go, whoever's going to win, bet it, and generally you will cover. Maybe over the course of time in this round, we'll see it. These would, 2 versus 7 would figure to be the biggest mismatches on the board, right? A 2nd seed against a 7th seed. So there's no way I could play Seattle here. Might be able to look at the total. Have to check the weather, as always, in San Francisco, because that rain could be a factor. And if it does rain, Ski, San Francisco on a muddy field is even better than Seattle. I would like them even more. So we'll see how that goes. But for the time being, I do think San Francisco is the right side.
All right. I like hearing that. We have Otto, a little bit of disagreement in the chat. He says he likes the Seahawks plus 10, and he thinks if they cover, it goes over. He agrees on that part. Says Geno didn't look to have the juice last week like he did earlier in the season. He says, but Carroll's going to have tricks up his sleeve, Dan Campbell style of coach. So we shall see which way that game pans out there. Next game up, Rob, we have the LA Chargers, Jacksonville Jaguars. This game open, Chargers minus 2.5, and it's now between either a pick 'em or -1 for the Chargers. Total open 47. We're looking at 47, 47.5, anywhere between there. And all right, first, I got to mention this. I already talked about, first, I like the under in this game. I talked about the wild card weekend, and the numbers I have for them are about, what is this here? 61.4% to the under. And if the total is greater than 41, I have them as 65% to the under. Now, if they are not in the same division, it gets even stronger here. Let me just make sure I have this correct. Okay, if they're not in the same division, I have 65.6% to the under. And if the total is greater than 41, I have 69.5% to the under. That says play the Chargers and Jacksonville under, and I think it also would apply to Dallas and Tampa Bay. But for this game, actually, let me read off a couple more of these things here. It was just so much things lining up for me to look at this, and I had to, get involved with an under. I know Chargers have stayed under 4 of their last 5 games. Jaguars are 5-2 to the under at home. They've stayed under their last 3. And I was also, looking at reasons to try and figure out the side and things like that. So I typed this system in, and it was just interesting to me, or not system, but situation. Road favorites of 3 or less in the playoffs, but they have My bad. Let me start over here. Road favorites of 3 or less in the playoffs with a better win percentage than their opponent. They are 8-3 straight up, 9-2 to the under. If you look since 2011, 6-1 straight up, 7-0 to the under. And I'm looking at this situation that the Jaguars are in, just being real specific, looking at how these teams have done in this like this. Home dogs off 5 straight wins in the playoffs. I have them as 1-3 straight up and against the spread, and 3-1 to the under. Honestly, I've told you a lot of reasons why, or a lot of numbers why I like the under. But just thinking about the side wise, I feel like the Jaguars got lucky to even win that last game. I know a lot of I just don't have a lot of faith or a lot of trust in what I've seen the Jaguars do. When I think about both of these teams, I mean, Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence, I give the edge to Herbert 100%. And as far as the defense, Jags pass defense is ass. We definitely, and I say that because I'm a Chargers fan, and I will bet against the Chargers. I bet against the Chargers plenty of times this season and in general. But we're going to be able to pass against that defense that's 28th against the pass compared to the Chargers, who are a lot better in that regard. But the Jags, I feel like they'll try to, and this also helps for the under, I think they're going to try to keep the clock running with ETN, just run the ball. So I don't know. It comes down to Jags trying to waste the clock. I think the Chargers defense will hold up against them for the most part. And I think the Chargers, like if it comes down to it, I trust Herbert more at the end of the game. I didn't play him yet, but I trust him more at the end of the game to make a play, even if they're down or whatever the case is. So I want to bet the Chargers. I really do. I was waiting to see if they got flipped to a dog price. Then I would get involved on probably a straight bet on them and also tease them up. But so far, I'm only on the under 47.5. And lastly, I'll just read these teaser numbers for both of these teams. Or before I get to the teaser, Chargers as a short favorite this season. That's a favorite of less than 3. They're 4-0 straight up. And if you go back to since Herbert's been quarterback, 8-3 straight up. If you look at them in that situation on a -6 point teaser, 0-11. I always talk about this. Chargers are not the team that you expect them to win by, touchdowns or any kind of crazy margin. It's just not that kind of team. And the Jags, meanwhile, on a +6 teaser, are 11-1. So that's probably why you've seen this number get away. Everybody's teasing the Jags, and rightfully so. But if it flips to the other side, Chargers as an underdog, they're 15-2 on a +6 tease since Justin Herbert has been there. So you could tease that side too. So that's what I'm waiting on for the side. Probably, back the Chargers and also tease them. But I am involved on under 47.5. What do you think about this game, Rob?
Yeah, I like a lot of what you're saying. I'm going to say this. I like the Chargers. And the reason to like Underski is I think as these two teams have gone along, the more we've seen them take on defensive identities. For the Chargers, it was weird. They played a game against Miami a few weeks ago. I'm not looking at their schedule right now, but I forget when it was. But it's within the last 5 games. And they had an entire backup secondary against Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they shut Tua down. And from that point on, they found something defensively. And since then, they've gotten healthy. Remember, Joey Bosa's back now. When you start going through the layers of their defense, they've got a star player on the line, Joey Bosa. They've got a star player at linebacker with Khalil Mack. And then they've got a star on the back end with Derwin James. That defense that we thought was going to be loaded is healthy now and loaded. And I'm with you. Jacksonville's turned to pressure on defense. But listen to this. Pressure is great. And we saw them sacking Tennessee the other day. But the last 3 weeks, they've had a lot of hits behind the line of scrimmage, a lot of sacks. The quarterbacks in those situations for their opponent were Joshua Dobbs, who Josh Dobbs was just a throw-in, right? Before that, it was Davis Mills 2 weeks ago for the Houston Texans. And before that, it was Zach Wilson, who was so horrible for the Jets that they pulled him and put in the Canadian Football League guy, Chris Streveler, who just took the snap and started running. And everybody was cheering him on because he could run. But none of those guys are Justin Herbert with Keenan Allen, with Mike Williams, who it looks like he's going to go now. I think I saw his injury is not as severe as they thought, and he's going to be able to play here. Austin Eckler. If you ask me, both defenses being equal, let's just say that they are equal for the sake of talking it out here. Who do you think's going to make a play? Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence? I know the world is fascinated with Trevor Lawrence, and I give Doug Peterson, the head coach for Jacksonville, all the credit in the world because he's an Andy Reid disciple, and he's always got good play calling. But I watched that game last week. It was a pressure game, and Trevor Lawrence didn't look good at all. I mean, again, he's had spurts during the year, but I don't know that he's playoff ready. I think Justin Herbert is. The Chargers have been itching to get into this situation for a while now, and I just think this is a good spot for them. I don't understand why the money's all on Jacksonville, except that the world's a little bit infatuated with them. But I'm telling you, if you tell me, and I even think the Chargers defense is better, to tell you the truth, because I'm with you when you said, and I'll quote, Jacksonville's pass defense is ass. Even if they're not ass, they're not as good as the Chargers is. So I think the Chargers are just a better team. And you know what? The Chargers don't seem to be, when they get in these situations, they don't seem to be a team that gets intimidated by the road. I know it's going to be loud and snap count and there's false starts and all this other stuff. But to me, the Chargers at SoFi, at so-called home, or the Chargers on the road, I don't know that it makes much difference to them because when they're playing at home, it's never a real home game anyway. I like the Chargers, and I do like where you're going with the under because I do think that both of these teams have become a little more defensive-oriented.
And I agree with you 100%. No home field advantage. Chargers have been just fine on the road. A couple comments here that Dan Kelly's pretty much saying Jags look good versus Tennessee. Maybe they got playoff jitters out the way as that was virtual playoff game. Home dog, Chargers coming across the country equals got to take the 1.5. No, I'm not feeling that way. Otto says Jaguars first half money line. Dan Kelly says I'm changing his mind. Okay. I'm just trying to make my case and let you guys know what I like, and you make your decision. Otto says they shut Eckler down in early season matchup. Very underrated, under radar D the Jags have. I disagree. You heard Rob talk about the three quarterbacks that they just faced recently. I mean, as a part of this win streak, is that really impressive? And in that game versus the Chargers in the early season, everybody was hurt. Herbert had a rib injury. He wasn't even supposed to play that week. Rashawn Slater got hurt. Herbert had nobody to block for him. There was no Keenan Allen. Mike Williams got hurt in the game. Chargers had nobody. It was a punt. We just punted that game. I don't even know why they put Justin Herbert out there. I was pissed about that. So I don't think you can take too much from that first game that they played. And if anything, I feel like Herbert will have a chip on his shoulder from that game. What are you going to say, Rob?
I was going to back you up there because I think that if nothing else, that loss helps the Chargers here. They got the best of Jacksonville that day. They got to see Doug Peterson's play calling that day. And you're right, the health of the Chargers on that day was brutal, absolutely brutal. Justin Herbert could barely throw the ball by game's end. And once it started to snowball, it just got out of control. I think it was close in the second quarter, and then his second half, Jacksonville came out, got a couple quick scores, and it was all over from there. So I think that's kind of helpful for the Chargers. I don't want to call revenge because I think that word is overused, but I do think you can go back and look at the film of that game and see every single thing Jacksonville did and be able to defend it this time. If I'm right, I don't think Joey Bosa was even part of that game. I'd have to go back and look at the starting lineup.
He got hurt in the game.
Yeah, and to the original point, when I was first going through analysis, they're a healthy group now. It's taken all year for them to get healthy again. And when we started this season, a lot of people thought this team healthy was going to the Super Bowl, right? If you line them up on paper, personnel-wise, Jacksonville Chargers, if both coaching jobs were open, Ski, and you were offered both, you'd be taking a Charger job, not because you're a fan, but because they got better players. So I just think that comes to fruition here. I think it's a motivated group with better players. Everything that Jacksonville does well, I think LA does a little bit better. And Eckler, Etienne, I don't even think that's a wash. I think Austin Eckler is probably slightly better as well. So I like the Chargers.
Love it. And I'm seeing how to be producer now. I can put the comments on the screen. I'm learning.
Yeah, there you go.
What up, Joey? Appreciate you tapping in. Um, we got a few more games, Rob, and maybe we're gonna run out of time here. We have another day this week to get through all of them, but maybe just real quick, Buffalo and Miami. I don't have a whole lot to say. It's very simple for me in this handicap. Buffalo. I mean, before the season, we're saying they're probably the best team, right? It's Super Bowl. Everybody was saying they could win the Super Bowl. They had some moments during the season when they were shaky, but I don't know. I just feel like with everything that just happened with that Hamlin thing, it's going to be a whole lot of extra motivation for all the players on both sides of the ball. And I mean, you still have a hell of a lot of talent on that roster. When the Bills win, it's usually by margin anyway. I already talked about playoff double-digit home favorites and how well they've been doing lately. 14-3 against the spread, and they've covered 11 straight since 2011. Just pick the winner. Buffalo Bills get the job done in this one. Can you talk me off?
No. You know what? What if Skylar Thompson is the quarterback here, Ski? What if Tua can't go? I mean, this Miami's in a bad way right now, and all of a sudden, Wonder Boy, head coach for the Miami Dolphins, is being labeled as an Xbox coach. He runs these. If they don't pop a 76-yard slant for a touchdown to Hill or Waddle, they don't move the football anymore. And Raheem Mostert got hurt the other day. I mean, there's so many reasons to like Buffalo team total over. The conditions here in Buffalo are going to be what they are. Miami, they got that 11-6 winning cover against the Jets the other day, but they were life and death to even win that game. And again, that was with Thompson. Even if Tua's back here, Ski, if Tua comes back, the point spread comes down a little bit. I'm sure that the odds makers will adjust and maybe shave a couple off of this for Tua. But I would rather have Tua even playing here. I don't think there's any way Buffalo gets beat here. I don't think there's any way Buffalo doesn't cover here. They'll put up points, and Miami's played them tough. I'll give them that. But in this particular situation here, I don't think this is much of a contest. I think Miami's lucky. They're coming in to these playoffs as bad as they've looked all season long. They should have been in the playoffs like 8 weeks ago when they were looking good, because somebody's figured them out. And it's not just one defensive coordinator. It's a whole bunch that have figured out how to defend Miami. So I would be with Buffalo here.
Love it, love it, love it. Let me ask you a question, Rob. NFL playoffs, or maybe even early playoffs, however you want to look at it. Would you say, your opinion, that it's more square, or like, what do you think about that? Like, do you think it's just you pick the good teams for the most part early in the playoffs?
Yeah, and again, this is a different world to us, this super wild card round, but I just think that, a lot of these games end up, big numbers look big. Like last night, Georgia minus 13 looked, oh my God, 13. But in the end, the better team kind of rolls. So you can't be afraid of it. And if you really like this side, don't be afraid of it. Just play it that way. They'll try and protect themselves. The odds makers will, from teasers with some of these numbers. But I don't even think you have to worry about teasers in a lot of these instances. The better team will cover. I think we've talked about that here, right? We like San Francisco. We like Buffalo. They're both big numbers against outmanned teams. I would say, call it square, call it what you want. I call it cashing tickets. I don't care either way. I'll play an 11-point favorite if it's going to, win 65-7 like it did last night, minus 13. So no problem here.
Absolutely. So with that said, I'm gonna mention this really quick. I'm not a big parlay player, but I will parlay in the playoffs because I know these teams care, and you can have some kind of advantages, I feel like, in that situation. So I've already told you that playoff double-digit home favorites cover at a crazy rate. They're big favorites for a reason. If you want to take them like that, feel free. Another option, listen, people are not going to like it. People are going to say, oh, it's square. Why would you do that? Blah, blah, blah. But it's been doing nothing but what Rob said, cashing tickets. Playoff double-digit home favorites. 17-0, straight up. They just win. So if you want to throw them on your parlay ticket with somebody else, I have nothing against or wrong with that. Playoff home favorites of 6 or more win 76.3% of the time. That's the Bengals. Ravens don't have Lamar Jackson. I think that's or they're not expected to have Lamar Jackson. You can tell me if you think he's going to play out there. But I think if you put all three of those together, you get a minus 109. Why would you not take that? 17-0 straight up and 76.3%. That's a good bet in my eyes. Do you think Lamar Jackson plays? And what do you think about that bet?
Listening to John Harbaugh, Ski, I can't tell if he's going to play or not. If you read a bunch on that situation, like I've tried to the past few days, there's some people that believe Lamar Jackson just doesn't want to play because he doesn't want to wreck his free agency year here. He's about to cash big and he's hurt. Maybe he's not hurt enough to not play, but doesn't want to aggravate it. So, there's conspiracy theories everywhere. My personal opinion of Lamar Jackson, watching him at Louisville and through this, if he can play, he's going to play. I think he wants to be in the playoffs. I think he wants to make a name for himself in the playoffs. You get paid bigger if you perform in the playoffs. I think the line indicates that the odds makers think he's going to play because Sunday this game was 11.5. Now it's only 6.5. Same game, same place, same everything. Must think Lamar Jackson's going to play. If he doesn't, it's going to go up. But I would expect if he can go, he can go. I just don't know that that's the case because John Harbaugh was talking circles yesterday around whether or not this guy's going to play or is even capable of playing right now. And your bet, Ski, at minus 109, how are you going to argue with 17-0? And eventually one's going to lose. But again, the definition of this sports betting, handicapping, whatever you want to call it, gambling, put yourself in the best position to win. And I don't know that there's a better position than 17-0. That's a pretty good position. The people who want to talk about squares wind up talking themselves out of winners because they don't want to, oh, you're square. They don't want to be called that. Well,
right.
You can't worry about that stuff. The spread and the numbers are the great equalizers for all of this, whether you're playing favorites, underdogs, overs, unders, don't matter. Play what wins. And right now, 17-0 suggests double-digit favorites in the playoffs win.
Absolutely. So I think we did a pretty good job. We're getting close to that 11:15 mark that we usually get out of here on. So we'll leave the remaining couple games for us to touch on Friday. Mm-hmm. Great breaking the games down with you, Rob. We got through a hell of a lot today. Is there a game that we talked about that you maybe like more than the others? And is there anything that you would like to promote?
Well, I'll say this to anybody watching. Ski and I will be together again in about 2 hours from now on Wager Talk's NBA tip-off show. So if you want to see analysis there on the NBA card, we gave you the early stuff here. Maybe something will come up as it always does in the NBA in a couple hours where we'll have different info for you. But you can, if you're not a member of Wager Talk right now, just go to the site, wagertalk.com, put in your email address, and you'll have instant access to all the media content that we provide over there. If you're interested in selection packages, mine are always up and available, wagertalk.com. For this show, Ski, I'm going to go back to the Oklahoma City game. I just think they're going to come in with the mindset that we're younger, we're deeper, we're going to run you guys. Let's see if Udonis Haslem can run for 16 minutes or whoever's going to be out there for Miami. And I don't think it'll work. They just don't have enough bodies for me. And the way they're shooting the three right now is really impressive. Real quick here, and I don't want to expand too much, go too crazy here, because maybe this game will be on our thing on Wager Talk, but 18-22 are the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I'm thinking, why do they want to win so badly? But then I start thinking, it doesn't really matter to them like it would matter to some other bottom feeders if they win a bunch of games, because if they really want to just get back to the top of the draft and get more lottery balls, they've got a gazillion draft choices that they can trade. So they're in a real good spot here. They can try to win where other teams try to tank. And if they want to get to the top ahead of these teams, they've got so much draft capital that they can trade, and even players now that they're showing. I think it's a good situation for OKC, and I think it's a good situation tonight. So I would take a money line over Miami here in this game.
All right, good stuff. And like you said, situations, things change. Shannon in the chat did put 10 minutes ago that Ayton was ruled out. I see the numbers moving. So for my best bet, I will use Golden State. The best number you can get is 11.5, just to let you guys know. I did bet it at 11, but I think this number continues to move without Aiden in the lineup today. So get it in now while you can. That'll be my best bet for the show. And like I said, Rob, appreciate you always coming and taking the time to share with all of us. We appreciate all of you guys for watching. And we'll do this again on Friday. Best of luck, everybody, if you tell. Good luck on all your action, and we'll catch you then.